I'd like to call the August 25th meeting of Lancaster County Board of Supervisors to order. At this time, we will stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Get ready to open up the public input session. During the public input section, you can talk about anything that's not on the public hearing for tonight. Anything you have to say about the public hearing for tonight will be held during the public hearing time, okay? All right, and you have, yes? And you have, thank you. And you have 3 minutes to talk. Thank you. And that's a personal joke to us. You have 3 minutes to talk, and when you have 1 minute left, I'll raise the sign. Okay. Now open. Public input section now open. All right.
Charlie Costello, District 2. I've stood up here many times and had things to say with the Board of Supervisors. Tonight, I stand here. The opening of the pre-K thing, it's on the paper today. It's a wonderful thing to see that come and have it fulfilled and what's happening with the schools. But also, this over here is something that's been talked about in this county for almost the 30 years that I've been here, and probably long before that. It's going to come to fruition, I hope, and be one of the first premier things around here. Look forward, and you're to be congratulated, and you're working with the school boards, finally, the way it should be. Thank you very much for your work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Charlie.
All right, anyone else? Anyone else?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman. I'm Bruce Julian, 9 Dream Place, Weems, Virginia, District 5. I'm here for 2 reasons this evening. And first, to thank you for appointing me to the Wetlands Board, serving with other volunteers to help the landowners protect their property and to conserve and protect the natural resources in the Commonwealth. Our primary focus is to expedite permitting process, working closely with the Marine Resources Commission and the Army Corps of Engineers, so landowners and contractors can fully comply with county ordinance, the Code of Virginia, and federal regulations and laws. Just 2 years ago, the General Assembly amended code to require first consideration of living shoreline treatment for use of these softer elements in addition to the traditional treatments that shorelines normally get. In the handout Don's given you, of the 22 entities that have Wetlands Board in Tidal, Virginia, Lancaster County ranks number 2, with 35 living shoreline permits issued in 2021. Additionally, the vast majority of these permits we have issued that do not meet the general permit requirements contain living shoreline elements. Only Norfolk issued more than we did. We're not behind on everything. Pretty darn good. The data demonstrates how rapidly our landowners, consultants, and contractors have embraced the living shoreline developing technology per the Code of Virginia. The second handout you have is a graph showing the trend lines from 1970 and the types of requested shoreline permits. And you can see how things are changing with technology. The second reason I'm here tonight is to thank you for appointing me to chair the advisory work group for access to public waters. Our volunteer group has been working hard on our shared goals to provide all families with more high-quality recreational opportunities to enjoy natural resources. I specifically want to thank each one of you for your unwavering support, backed up with funding, to help implement the goals and objectives and action items contained in the county's comprehensive plan and your strategic plan. We appreciate your untiring efforts to make critically important and sometimes difficult decisions that will help all citizens of the county, not a few, to improve the entire community. Your decisions have improved the standard of living, promoted economic growth, supported businesses while conserving natural resources. Lastly, I want to thank Don Gill and the county staff who have placed a high priority in making sure all the volunteer groups assisting at the local level can succeed. These efforts help ensure everyone have a better place to live and thrive. Staff has done an amazing job of helping us build a stronger community for all to enjoy. Thank you very much. Let's roll.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, you and the entire committee. Okay, anyone else? Anyone online? No, sir. Okay. Public comment session is over. VDOT.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's good to be with you all this evening. Apologize for my delay in getting the report out this time. It didn't make it into your packet initially, but I understand you have it in front of you. Completed in the last 30 days, we've cut brush on Mary Point, in the Mary Point area, and on Hoe Cake Road and Kelly Neck. We cut brush and cleaned a ditch on Moratico Road. Had the contractor mow all the primary routes, and he also picked up the litter. That is our second mow on the primary routes, so we'll do our final mow on the entire network, primary and secondary, with all the litter early this fall. We worked on grading the gravel roads. We cut sight distance on secondary roads, and we're keeping up with potholes county-wide. I understand we also took care of a sight distance issue here at the courthouse today, and the shoulder repairs that are listed on upcoming, the shoulder repairs on Route 3 from Lively to Lancaster are also complete. We do have work planned right here where we just paved between the curb and gutter and Devil's Bottom to work on the shoulders there. We also have pipe repairs planned on Davis Mill and Iberis, and then we'll be cutting brush and cleaning pipes countywide. We also have another pipe on Route 3 in Lively to repair. The surface treatment schedule is now under construction, so that's a change, and there's a myriad of routes there that we'll be doing over the next month or so. Cape Seal, latex, and plant mix schedules are largely complete. We're mostly just waiting on the striping and the pavement markers to be finished on those. Everything else, there haven't been any other changes. Davis Mill is summer of ~25. That's a gravel road that will hard surface. The Smart Scale project goes to add in '24. That's the turn lane at James B. Jones and Kilmarnock. And then the intersection improvement on Route 3 and 605 goes to add in 2025. We do have a bridge project to repair the scour on Route 3 at Camps Prong, back near the county line. That goes to add this December. The Oyster Creek Bridge goes to add in 2025. That's down Windmill Point. And then we have a culvert replacement plan on 354. I don't have an add date on that yet, but we are working. That will be a closure, probably 6 to 9 months, probably closer to 9 months, and we'll have a detour there around that. And that is everything I have on my report. If you all have anything for me or have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Okay, I think you want us to approve a resolution for you, don't you?
Yeah, that's next. 3 of them.
All right, okay. All right, so we ready?
You want to explain what those resolutions are, Mr.
Yeah,
Taylor?
go ahead. Yes.
Go ahead, okay. David mentioned the 2 smart scale projects that the county had approved in the 2 prior rounds of smart scale. Smart scale happens every 2 years. It happens again this year. Back in the early part of this year, David and his staff helped me figure out 3 areas that would that they thought would score very well in smart scale, and we put together applications for those 3 projects. One is on Route 3 in between Kilmarnock and Whitestone at the intersection with the bypass road. This project will extend the right turn lane off of Route 3 onto Harris Road, and will also create a dedicated left turn lane in the opposite direction to make the left turn lane on the truck bypass route on the bypass road. That's one project. Another project is at the intersection of Route 354 and 201, which is down by St. Mary's Whitechapel Church. That will create a dedicated right turn lane off of 354 onto Route 201. The third and final project is on Pinkersville Road and at Crawford's Corner. That has a weird intersection of three roads that come together, and the project would flatten the curve there and create more of a traditional T intersection. We had to submit a pre-application. All three projects were screened in through that pre-application phase. We now move into the final application phase, and part of that final application phase is a resolution of support from the governing body supporting each project. So you have three resolutions before you, one for each project, and I ask that the board approve those resolutions.
All right. Is it, yes, sir?
Move for adoption?
Of all three?
Yes.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Move for adoption of all three resolutions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous vote, motion carries. Okay,
I have
sir.
a couple other things I'd like to bring up. One thing, is there any update on the tree removal at Cardinal Lane and Auckland Road that we're working with Dominion on?
I'll have to look into it. I don't know.
Okay, and the other one was, I noticed that they've provided funding and they're working toward replacement of the Norris Bridge. We're also at the same time working on our 2035 strategic plan, and part of that plan would be to work with VDOT to negotiate maintaining some of the old bridge as a county park, potentially, and access. And other than that, in the replacement of the bridge, what input would the county have, and what are the process and stages? And I don't know if Ms. Parker at some time from the Fredericksburg office who manages the bridges could come down and kind of brief us or provide some kind of briefing on replacement, timetables, what input the board would have on design and the phases of that, and then again with the acquisition of part of the old Norris Bridge to provide public access.
I'm certainly happy to help facilitate that meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, that's a good request. And also keep in mind that the new bridge was proposed to be lower than the present bridge, but we have requested that though that bridge, the new bridge is built at the same height because of the businesses on the other side out in the Irvington area, they have to pass ships and stuff through there. All right, so we want to make sure that's the same height. Anything else, gentlemen? Okay. All right, no further comments or questions from us.
I would just like to add on the smart scale projects, really a thank you. This board, over the years, long before I got here, has been pretty proactive about applying for smart scale. And you have two active projects, the ones that, it takes 6 years from the time they're approved till you get all the funding to build them. So it's quite a process, but the board for a long time has been proactive, and Don and his staff have been proactive about applying for these things. If you don't ask, the answer is no. And you got 3 applications. It's hard in the rural areas to find locations that screen in. These 3 projects screen in because of the safety data, because of crash data. So first they have to screen in, that's the first hurdle, and then you get scored, then you have to compete. And you know, when you have lower volumes and lower, you know, you have enough crashes to screen in, but do you have enough data to score well? And you know, economic development is a category that helps you score better. And these are in rural locations where there's not a lot of economic development. So I don't know how well they will score. They will screen in, but if you don't ask, the answer is no. So I just encourage you to keep applying, even if it gets frustrating. I know it's probably a lot of work for Don, but you do have some projects that are you know, on the docket that are funded and going to be built. So those improvements are coming, and I just appreciate the effort that Don and the county has put into applying for these projects. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Appreciate your help.
All right. Presentations, Broadband Authority update.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Michelle Craddock here to present for the Broadband Authority. We have good news in that Dominion, as you've probably seen, is working very hard on what we call the middle mile along their distribution lines. And they're scheduled to be completed by the end of December of this year. And then APB will start constructing the last mile, which is the link from the Dominion lines to the homes, in the beginning of January 2023. And as they build out, they will release the service areas, certain neighborhoods linked together as they build out certain areas, just like Breeze Line is starting to do. So I think we're going to see big changes here in the beginning of next year, and by this time next year, it should be really exciting to see where we are with that project. Another positive is that Breeze Line continues to be ahead of schedule in Lancaster County, and their construction, overall construction, is now 65% complete. They have overcome some delay issues they have, which have not impacted our project at all. And our director is very excited about their progress and thinks that they're doing a very good job. So he's very pleased with that. Attached to the written report that we submitted is a list of the 40 residences that are now ready for signing up for service. So as Breeze Line completes more of those areas, they'll be rolling out the service to those houses, the additional houses as well, and we'll keep you updated on those. As far as the CARES Act fixed wireless project goes, BTS now has 228 subscribers, and they're in the process of enrolling 30 additional subscribers. And then with the smart poles, we continue to have issues with those, and we're looking at potentially making some changes to have a better solution as far as service to those go, and we'll update you on that as we have further information.
Question? Oh, go ahead.
I was on just the smart poles. That is very concerning because you're talking about 3, 8, or 8 that's actually working, 3 to 4, and I mean, is there any explanation at all?
Well, trees is one of the explanations. So we're like, well, do we need to take down some trees? And so we're looking at that, and we're looking at changing some of those locations. We could move the smart poles to better locations. The key is we'd like to have them on public property is the ideal situation. So if you have any suggestions, we are certainly actively looking for new locations where they would work better, because you need the clearance to be able to have good service.
Is there any plan to ultimately run some of this fiber to those poles?
Yes, that's the goal.
Capabilities.
That's the long-term goal for sure. And not too much, in a year, within a year,
Yeah.
right? When we can get the fiber to it, that's absolutely a goal.
Any additional questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank
Continue
you.
the good work.
Thank you.
School renovation, construction, and activity updates. Mrs. Davis.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Last week, we started the school year off with open houses at each of our buildings, and it was exciting. We had the biggest turnouts we've had in years. I think people are just ready to get out there with their kids. So almost 90% participation in the early childhood center, the primary school, and the middle school. We have 11 new teachers coming on board, and we currently have over 20 Lancaster High School graduates working in our school division, which is pretty awesome. We're growing some of them into teachers too. We had a big focus on safety at the beginning of the year. We trained every staff member with civilian response and casualty care training by the Department of Criminal Justice with an act of attack or shoot or anything like that. So everybody's been trained with that training, which people felt like was really beneficial. We opened up the new early childhood center, which is amazing. We're at full capacity. We have 80 children in there right now, which is up quite a bit from our numbers last year for preschool. It's been a great opening, lots of tears and lots of, activity and energy, but they're all getting situated. We had one little kid come in that was crying the first day, and as soon as he walked in and saw the building, the tears were gone. He was just their fish on the wall. It's pretty. We're having a community open house for anybody that wants to come in and see it on September 18th. So we'll be publicizing that. We did have a new traffic pattern this year with the building. We're still working on that road behind the Early Childhood Center. So the traffic pattern was a little different, but it went really smooth thanks to Lancaster County had deputies there, and Kilmarnock Town Police also helped with that, which was really nice. So their presence helped make it go very smooth. Currently, our renovation, the middle school's under renovation. The children are in grades 5 through 7 are in one half of the building, and the builders are working on the other half of the building. Mid-year, we'll flip, and they'll be in another new section. So it's pretty exciting. It's obvious in parts of it that it's under renovation. In the inside, it's very obvious on the outside, but it's looking really nice, and it's exciting. So that's where we are with the renovations and the opening to the school year.
Any questions, gentlemen?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Cole, capital improvement budget funding options.
Actually, it's RT Taylor.
Oh,
That's fine. Mr. Cole is at home sick this evening, so thank you all again for having us as your financial advisor. We appreciate the opportunity to continue working with the county. What you have in front of you this evening is just call it a status update memo as follow-up to our analyses that we prepared and shared with you back in June. This is really in coordination with Don. We thought it'd be helpful to get back in front of you at this meeting, let you know sort of the plan of finance, how it's coming together, give you a status update. So again, this is just a status update. There's no action on your agenda tonight to take action for what we're presenting. Back in June, we prepared and showed you some analyses related to your fiscal years 23 to 27 capital improvement program. Now, some of that capital improvement program is anticipated to be funded by annually recurring revenues, but there were a few projects on there that would lend themselves better to debt funding, borrowing the money up front, and then paying for it over time to better match the useful lives of those assets. So what we've identified or categorized here for you this evening are two categories. Number one, school projects, and number two, county projects. As you can see up on your screens or in the packet in front of you, the school project is estimated at roughly $60 million. That is for the new combined middle high school. And we are looking to fund that through the VPSA, the Virginia Public Schools Authority pool program this fall. So that application is due on Monday. It's non-binding, but we will be back to you at the September 29th meeting to present to you an estimated current market sizing of what that financing would look like. Additionally, to move on to category 2, those are the county projects, and that would cover the radio upgrade, the expansion of the Kilmarnock Convenience Center, as well as the various public access projects and related land acquisitions you have identified. Again, that would not be funded, or is not eligible to be funded through the state program, Virginia Public School Authority. Rather, there's another state bond pool program that it could be funded through called Virginia Resources Authority. And y'all have had experience with financings through both of those programs. Now, while the school projects lend themselves well through going to the Public School Authority pool program for a few reasons. Number one, very flexible structure. They'll let you amortize the loan up to 30 years. We can do some structuring on the front end, as we shared with you in the analyses, to do some interest only on the front end as we step into that new debt service. And then lastly, you are able to put the county's general obligation pledge behind those bonds, as opposed to pledging a county asset or a school asset and tying that up for, that you might have future plans to renovate or something, that you wouldn't want to have to go back to the lender and ask them for permission to free up that collateral. The state program allows you to do the general obligation pledge. As it relates to the VRA funding for the county projects, we're actually working with staff to dual track that through a potential bank loan financing, as well as we submitted an application to VRA in early August. So again, that application is non-binding either. We are tracking the markets to see how that might shape up, and we'll present that along with a comparative analysis of where the bank results come in mid-September. We'll come back and prepare that and share that with you at the September 29th meeting. So that September 29th meeting might be a little bit busy with us standing up here at the podium sharing some results with you. If we can move to page 2, just to walk through the schedule real briefly for VPSA, just to give you some idea. So like I said earlier, the VPSA application is due on Monday. Again, we're working with staff, we're taking the lead, and we'll shepherd that process to submit it on Monday. Your school board would need to take action to ask the county, number one, to issue its GO bonds. You know, preliminarily, they have to get ahead of the county and make that request, and then retroactively approve the submission of the VPSA application. So even though it's a little bit cart and horse, VPSA is flexible to allow that to happen at the same meeting. It's just a formality that they accept and approve submitting that application. Then again, like I said, September 29th, that's the night at which the county will hold a public hearing. And then we'll present our information, and you will decide whether or not you want to move forward with the VPSA pool program for funding the $60 million combined new middle and high school. After that, we'll coordinate through VPSA to price and sell the bonds on October 18th. And then your funds would be available once VPSA closes on or about November 9th. Any questions on the VPSA process, the $60 million school project, anything along those lines?
No, sir.
Okay. So moving to the next page then, going to the dual track process, again, we're going to be reaching out to the banks. If you go down to the schedule, I'm just going to walk through that. That would probably be helpful, Don. Thank you.
Hold on.
So last week, while he's getting to the schedule, last week we actually sent out the bank RFP, August 17th. And on that same day, we had our due diligence call with VRA to walk through and help them get their questions asked. And we've provided most of the answers. We do have a few follow-ups, but we need to help them through their credit underwriting process in order to garner a term sheet from VRA to say what their terms and conditions would be if we were to proceed with the fall pool. So what we'll do is we'll receive the bank bids on September 15th. On that same day, we'll ask our bond desk around the corner to give us a current market scale where they see a VRA pricing would occur. They're trading in and out of the markets on a daily basis, so we're able to get sort of a real live look at what the market would price a VRA bond pool issuance. So we'll compare those two, share the results with Don and bond counsel, have that discussion, and then be able to prepare a summary memo for y'all for that September 29th meeting. And that's the night at which, again, you'll be asked to make a selection of your preferred financing approach. After that, depending on how you want to proceed, we could potentially close on the bank loan by early November, or if you go the VRA route, they'll price their bonds, and that's when your interest rate will be locked in on or about October 26th. And then they'll close on their bond pool program on November 16th, and that's when your monies will be funded to you to be able to use for the project expenditures. And again, that VRA or bank loan will be related to the county projects in roughly amount of $5 million. Again, to go toward the radio upgrades, the expansion of the Kilmarnock Convenience Center, and the public access and land acquisitions. Any questions on the county project side?
No, sir.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. Public hearing.
All right, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. What we have before you tonight is an application for change of zoning district classification by Stay the Course LLC. CO Nathaniel Everett is the owner, to rezone 2 parcels of land with improvements from R1 Residential General to M1 Industrial Limited Conditional, known as tax map numbers 35-225 and 35-225A, consisting of 2.21 acres and the other parcel 4.63 acres. Located off Virginia State Highway 695, Windmill Point Road on Harpers Creek Road. This rezoning request is from Mr. Everett to have a seafood harvesting and marketing business. Mr. Everett purchases and markets seafood from local watermen on the Antipoisin Creek directly from their vessels. This is to field the vessels quickly and efficiently. In Article 9 of Lancaster County Land Development, it outlines permitted uses regulations for the M1 district. As you can see in your packets, the applicant has conditioned this request and proffers that are struck that do not pertain to buying seafood and then transporting it out to markets. This was consulted with county staff for the M1 destination because we currently don't have a working waterfront classification in our zoning ordinance. And I'll just make note that the comprehensive plan in Chapter 7 asks the county to promote and support existing industries, especially those engaged in seafood harvesting and processing, aquaculture, forestry, and agriculture. The Planning Commission has forwarded this request to the Board of Supervisors with recommendation for approval 4-0.
All right. Did, Mr. Gill, do you have sign-up sheets for speakers or? Yeah.
I have a question for Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Bill, in the use regulations, where it says, like, say, commercial marina, maybe include boats, accessory, but have to have a special exception, would that be another special exception on top of this particular request? Is that what that's saying?
For a marina use,
If the applicant wanted to come back at a later date and say, now I want a marina, he'd have to have another special exception? Is that what the rule says?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before I open up the public hearing? Okay. Again, public hearing, I'm opening it up. When I open it up, you have 3 minutes to speak. I will hold this up when you have 1 minute left. All right, so state your name and the district that you're in. Okay, at this time, the public hearing is now open. Any comments? Anybody from the public? Anybody online?
No, sir. Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the applicant. Is the applicant here?
Yes,
Applicant, okay. Come on up,
come
sir.
on up.
My computer is moving awful slow, Mr. Everett.
Let me close the public hearing first, all right? Public hearing is now closed. Yes, sir.
My computer's moving awful slow, but you filed with your application a 2 or 3 page document about what you intended to do down there and so forth. You recall that?
Yes, sir.
What was the purpose of that? What was the purpose of that document?
To state my intentions?
Yeah, I can't get it up. I'm having trouble here. Yeah, would you just were expressing what you intended to do on the property?
Yes, sir.
Did you mean to be bound by that?
No, sir.
You did not mean to be bound by that.
At the time, it was just good guideline, you know, to kind of a wish list.
Okay.
Because unofficial is the word, I guess I was.
Unofficial, so
Yeah.
you're giving what you think you're gonna do, but you're not don't wanna be bound by it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, that's all.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you. That's it, good, thank you, sir. All right, gentlemen, what's your wishes?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this special exception with the requested, or the submitted proffers.
Okay, you've heard the motion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous vote, motion passed.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Before you move on to the second public hearing, related to the first public hearing, you all know that it came before you a prior month, and because the plan of development was missing, Mr. Everett withdrew the application, and when he had a plan of development, he went back through the process with the Planning Commission and came back to the board. We treated that as a separate application, and it was another $400 application fee. But in hindsight, the reason that it moved forward the first time could be attributable to some staff error at that time. So Mr. Everett has requested, and staff would support it, if you all would waive the second application fee of $400. He paid the first one, he's paid the second one, but given the fact that it could have been some staff error as to why he had to come back a second time, I'd ask that you consider waiving that second fee.
Well, I don't have a problem with that.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we would waive that fee.
All right, all in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Unanimous, fee waived. Okay. All right, application for special exception, New Tides LLC, Mr. Gill.
Mr. Chairman, this is an application by the New Tides LLC to permit a boarding house use for its employees pursuant to Article 5-1-5 of the Lancaster County zoning ordinance for 6 parcels, tax maps 27G1 and 2, 13, 14, 15, and 16. 6 lots consisting of approximately 2.9709 acres total, located off of Weems Road near its intersection with Gaskins Road in District 5. You have a letter in your packet from the Director of Development of the New Tides, Marston Smith, explaining their need for this use. It would be basically 2 single-family residences, 2 stories, 5 bedrooms each, that are connected into a duplex configuration. Because it would not be used for 2-family use and be used to house 10 employees is the reason this boarding house special exception is needed. This is a special exception. Article 13-3 of your zoning ordinance allows the board to place conditions on special exceptions that it deems necessary to carry out the intent of the ordinance. This request has been advertised and adjoining property owners notified as required by law. And let me go into a little further explanation of this. Section 15.2-2204 of the Code of Virginia defines an adjoining property owner as one that abuts any of those 6 lots that are up for the special exception. If a property does not touch any of those 6 lots, you are not an adjoining property owner, and you would not be required to receive that separate mailing. Others would be notified through another provision of 15.2-2204, which states that you have to advertise for 2 successive weeks in a newspaper having general circulation in the county, which is the Rappahannock Record, which this issue was advertised on August the 11th and August the 18th. So that issue has been met. Another concern has been brought up about no signage being posted on the property advising the public of the special exception. Code of Virginia does not require that signage be posted on the property. I know that several localities do post signage. They do that on their own as an additional means of notice. Lancaster County has never done that. So I can tell you without a doubt that advertising and adjoining property owner notification has been conducted as required by law. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have of me. I know that the Director of Development, Marston Smith, is online. He has a PowerPoint presentation that he would like to make. And so I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question. Don, is it the application only for the 6 lots The other lots are not included?
The other 10 lots are not included, so if, the New Tides wanted in the future to do something similar on those 10 lots, they would have to go back through the same process again. This is only for the 6 lots that are in question, and it would be 10 employees per lot, capped at 60 employees, nothing beyond that, considered with this special exception
Are they
application.
going to have to abolish the boundary lot?
No,
lots?
no, no.
Okay. Any additional questions, comments? All right. Should we have the presentation first?
Yeah, I would ask, I think Marston, as the applicant, would like to present first.
Okay.
John, do you have PowerPoint? Yes, I have the PowerPoint.
Okay, sir, you can start your presentation.
Marston, can you hear us?
I can hear you all. Can y'all hear me all right?
We can hear you now, yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, I'm in Orlando Airport, but was rushing off the plane and glad I made it here. And Don, thanks. Don's going to quarterback the slides here. Don, you did a pretty good job of summarizing my first couple of slides, so I'll really blow through these pretty quickly. As you mentioned, it's for the 6 parcels. Don, I'm just going to go straight to slide 2, the summary of our ask. Even though you've gone over it, you can see in the diagram that we're presenting here, which comes from our DEQ submittal, that we're just seeking the special exception on those 6 first lots. The remaining 10 lots where there's no change to those, so those aren't part of this special exception request. All of these are zoned R1 currently. R1 5.1.5 in the zoning is boarding house, and that's a allowable use in R1 with a special exception. So going to slide 3, Don, I'll quickly go over this because I think everybody knows the Tides Inn, which New Tides LLC is what we carry this land under, but we do business as the Tides Inn. We're the 2nd largest employer in Lancaster County privately behind the hospital. Right now, our peak annually for employees is around 150. As we add, in the next 4 or 5 years, we're looking to add 30 more guest rooms. So we're anticipating that employee peak to be slightly higher. And in this image, you'll see, and most of you have been to Tides Inn and are familiar with the property, the garden house buildings, which were constructed in the 80s and 90s, are essentially past their useful life. We stopped renting them to guests and turned them into our staff accommodations, but we will need to demolish them necessarily 2024 and 2025. And so obviously we'll need some housing in place to accommodate our staff at that point. So this is, and I would say that this is the number one need that we face and that we hear most often from our staff within local area. Real need for having suitable housing in proximity to where we work. I mean, oftentimes they're having to come from quite a bit ways outside of Lancaster County, and we would love for that not to be the case. Don, I'll go to slide 4, the property history, and this is very telling of, because essentially this has always been planned as our employee housing development neighborhood. So we previously, before 2005, owned the entirety of this strip that ends in 27G 119 and goes all the way to the road frontage there. That was owned by New Tides LLC. And as a proffer to the subdivision of these 16 half-acre lots, we gifted the county the 11 acres behind those lots for Taylor Creek Park. We created Taylor Creek Park Association and covenanted a number of things that we would do, including providing access, providing roadway, providing some signage and parking, 15 parking spots within this park. And this was back in 2007, but it's clearly defined, and we stand by it. We've been working with the county administration as well as the Wetlands and Public Water Access Board with Bruce Julian's guidance to make sure that we abide by those covenants as we develop this out. In addition, we gave the 2 parcels fronting Weems Road to the county. And, you know, one question that I heard from the board and from Don leading up to this was, why are we doing this on this property? Why aren't we getting the lodge side or one of our other holdings? Well, the reason is that this was always intended to be our employee housing neighborhood. It's the most suitable of all our sites because of utility availability, and we also think that it's going to create a major public amenity with public water access. So this site and the development of this site is best suited for our employee housing, but it's also will catalyze the development of this park and public water access for the county, which is very beneficial. I'll go to slide 5. The product we are suggesting to build here looks like single-family residential housing. It's a 2-story stick-frame home with 5 bedrooms. There's 1 bedroom on the bottom floor, which is the master bedroom, kind of the captain of the house as we see it. And then there's 4 bedrooms and 2 baths on the top floors of each one of these structures. It's a duplex-style configuration with 2 homes per lot. And what we've done in order to maximize green space is take the driveway up the shared property line of two of the lots. So you see the typical configuration of 2 lots in the top right there. And that's going to maximize our green space. In addition, we're bringing the sewer, which we operate the wastewater treatment plant on the lodge side. The sewer was previously going up Third Guy Drive, which is relatively near us here. We brought it up an additional 1,000 feet, and we've taken it to the other side of Weems Road. Upon approval and getting the land disturbance permit, we're going to bore under Weems Road and bring sewer, bring electrical, and bring water up the new street that's going to be created, which I believe is called Taylor Creek Park Lane. Finally, I should mention that for this project, we've used local contractors. We've used Franklin Mechanical for the site work and all the utilities. We'll continue to do so. And Connemara, once we get into building the structures, will be our builder, both local contractors. Slide 6. As Don mentioned, this is just for the first 6 lots. That totals 60 total bedrooms. That's what we need to accommodate our foreseeable needs in the future as we deliver our spa and a couple of the other rooms. We're leaving the other 10 for, we don't have a need, so we're not going to touch this right now. Right now we have 36 rooms in the garden house. Some of them are double, but these 60 bedrooms are all single living use. And what's great about this plan is that it's going to allow us a little bit of flexibility to get all of the staffing right for various family groups, whether it's our seasonal employees, whether it's year-round individuals that need a place to live in closer proximity to us, or even this could allow for traditional families. So basically, we're just asking for the use, for non-related parties to be able to live together, which is a pretty standard roommate or housemate situation. I lived for most of my life in this same non-related parties environment, but this is the distinction that Lancaster County has it. They call it boarding houses. So the next slide, slide 7, I just wanted to address, one adjacent property owner that I've been in contact with throughout the pre-development of this project, and especially this week, are the Wards, who are the property owners to my west. And I should say that I just want to mention that when we did the subdivision in 2006, that was in place in January 2007. before the Wards purchased their property in 2009. This employee housing development was all, you know, in place, and we had made these, you know, we had made these proffers then, so they knew it when they bought the house. I put a picture of the sign that Forrest put at the end of the driveway this week. I was surprised because I think that this is always, in terms of what we've been telling Forrest, this is always what we were looking to do. And I received a copy of Forrest's letter and packet that they were going door to door to the neighbors distributing. And I think that a little bit, it was the word boarding houses was a little bit used, or maybe creating a little bit of fear. And I agree it's a rather archaic term. I don't see it in most counties, but it's the county's designation for non-related parties, which this condition probably, I say certainly, where you have housemates that are non-related, exists throughout the county. We're just being forthcoming and asking that, you know, we intend to have non-related parties, so we just have to receive that special exception. Setbacks, Forrest had mentioned, you know, the setback looked close. It is greater than at all points, 50 feet, and more like 75 feet, Forrest, if you're there. And my required setback's 25 feet, so I'm well within that. For those parameters. VDOT, we're working with we've already obtained approval on the entrance, and we're obtaining all necessary approvals with VDOT. The environmental impact and runoff, we're actually improving this property pretty significantly. We're at our own cost implementing the stormwater basin, and every drop of water that touches this property is going to be filtered through the stormwater basin. So we're in our final round of comments with DEQ, and we expect to have that resolved early next week and have the full DEQ approval of this plan. The final thing that Forrest's letter mentioned was parking, and I think the math was a little bit off on what he anticipated for future parking. We're not touching the other 10 lots, and I think it was inflated even if we had been touching the lots. But look, if it's truly desired, I had 8 parking spaces per lot. I'm happy to reduce that. You know, we just want to. It's not typical to you know, ask for a reduction on parking, which is essentially what we've done as a driveway with some vacuous spaces. But if 8 can't be lived with our neighbors, we can reduce it to 6 per on the site. That's fine with me. The next slide 8, I want to mention we have been good partners with Lancaster County in the planning of this project, and we're very excited about Taylor Creek Park. We did a bit of site clearing and mulching, which we're permitted to do on the site. And while the picture there is a picture of the tractor that's used to mulch. It's a pretty cool one. I hope I can drive it one day. I think Don wants to drive it too. We mulched a pathway through the 11-acre park back there so that the county has access and can sort of envision what they want to do with their park. We'll continue to work with the administration and Bruce Julian in providing this water access, because this is just, to me now, this has become the low-hanging fruit of providing public water access in Lancaster County. So I'm very excited about that. And once we build our road, which Franklin Mechanical will finish as soon as we get this land disturbance permit in the coming months, you'll have the full access. We'll cul-de-sac back there, and then you'll be able to start building that park. So our plan development aligns with all sorts of county objectives. The most key one among them is providing suitable housing for the working age population. Some have referred to it within the this objective as Lancaster 2035, but We're very strong proponents of that. As one of the major employers, we feel that we need to play a role in this, and this neighborhood development is playing that role. We also provide public access to water, park space, no water quality. Bruce, I apologize, I'm late, but Bruce probably mentioned a commitment over on Carter's Creek and to all the tributaries of Lancaster County, which includes Florissant and Taylor Creek, Farm. And finally, by having the appropriate staff housing, this will allow us to continue our economic and tax benefit of operating our primary business at the Tides. So, in conclusion, on slide 9, our designated use of boarding house special exception will allow us to continue to recruit employees and retain the employees that we have. Additionally, improve the employee quality of life by having them live in close proximity, or closer proximity in many cases than they currently do, especially with the county. We'll provide these housing opportunities to citizens, including significant minority employment. We have a lot of employees already living down Weems Road and Gaskins Road in this area. And this is very well received by our employees. This is a housing type that we feel is critical to Lancaster County sustaining a working age population. So in some ways, for that, we're happy to do it. And we will continue to be a good neighbor on this road, connecting the utilities, providing water access, beginning Taylor Creek Park, and building this new neighborhood road. It's going to have a nice, still neighborhood curb appeal. So, finally, with our core housing needs fulfilled, we'll keep furthering the projects that can help drive Lancaster County economically. That in the future will also include, in addition to our Tides Insight, the Lodge site. And just finally, because we want these non-related parties, I, in conclusion, ask that we receive the special exemption for the R1 boarding house use. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
All right. Any questions, comments? Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. We're getting ready to open up the public hearing. And as before, you have 3 minutes to speak. And when you have 1 minute left, I will hold this sign up. So when you come forward, state your name and the district that you're from. Keep your comments to what we are talking about today. Okay. Thank you.
Almost forgot about it.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. Forest Ward?
Yes, sir.
All right.
These are for everybody. If you leave this full that way, I'll reference it. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Forrest Ward, District 5.
Would you get the microphone closer and speak?
Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
All right, I'll try to talk clearly. I own approximately 8 acres directly adjacent to the New Tides LLC parcel in the future county park. And also have the proxy of one of the 2 other adjoining landowners, John Wick. I spoke with him. He had not received notification of this proposed change. So he gave me his proxy to speak for him. He was against making the change. When we bought the property in 2009, we were aware of the Tides property and the 2007 agreement for the residential development on the 16.5-acre lots. And I've got copies, and if you look at the top copies of what's folded out there, you can see there's the 16 spots, and you can see what look like could be 16 single-family homes there. And that's what we thought would be there. Our understanding was there'd be vacation cottages or family homes or in line with the character of the neighborhood, based on what Mr. Smith said, it's employee housing. That may have been his mind. But what I'm confident about wasn't in the mind is they didn't plan on this boarding house exemption. because they would have put it in the agreement. He says this was planned employee housing. If it was, and it was going to be boarding house housing, because all the rules haven't changed, they would have put it in. They didn't. They had imagined single, maybe duplexes, families living there. This isn't families, this is a dorm on a good day. We were absolutely shocked to find out last weekend that the county plans to give new ties boarding house exemption. What's now proposed is intensity of development beyond any magnitude that we could have imagined. We're now facing 6 10-bedroom duplexes for ties employees on just 6 lots. And the design and placement can only lead you to believe we're facing 10 more. And you look at the numbers he gave us, he's planning on a lot of people. With a boarding house exemption, there's no, unless you guys limit it, there's no limitation on the number of people who can live there. It doesn't have to be 1 person per bedroom. It could be 2, 3, 4 people per bedroom. And even if it's 1 person per bedroom, that is 60 additional people on less than 3 acres. And 100 more if they do the rest of the development in the same intensity. That, you won't find that level of intensity anywhere else in Weems. It's completely inconsistent with the nature of the neighborhood and the lot sizes and restrictions of property owners nearby. This many people is a significant addition to the population of Weems and will be a huge driver of increased traffic. I understand that the current R1 zoning allows construction of 2-family duplexes on each lot, and the Lancaster County Code states that the maximum 5 lodgers are allowed in either single-family or 2-family home without a special exemption. That's why they're asking for it. If all New Tides needs is lodging for 60 people, they have the property to do it without any special exception. They can build single-family houses. They can give a special exemption, gives them increased. They have the lots, increased density.
Time is.
Is that me?
Yes, sir.
Boy, time flies when you're up here. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
All right.
I hope you'll vote no.
Thank you. Ms. Molly Ward.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, and members of the board. I'm Molly Ward, and I'm also own the home at 1578 Williams Road. I'm going to talk about notice. I'm not going to repeat anything my husband said. But the first notice we got about this was last Saturday, August 20th. And we received a letter from the county in the mail, and it was a general letter with a copy of the newspaper advertisement. So it said to call Mr. Farrell if we had any questions. Well, obviously, it's Saturday. We can't call Mr. Farrell. So we reached out to him on Monday to try to understand what was going on, why the Tides Inn wanted a boarding house permit. Because we knew about the development for employees and the duplex availability. Forrest also called Mr. Smith. Mr. Farrell and Forrest, for whatever reason, I'm not blaming you, Mr. Farrell, Forrest still couldn't understand why they wanted this boarding house permit. So we were still trying to figure out what was going on Monday. We talked to Mr. Smith at the Tides Inn, and he led us to believe that he didn't think he needed the permit at all, and this was something the county was doing. So now we're really confused. Forrest next called Mr. Gill, and Mr. Gill did call him back. Forrest missed the call, and they were never able to connect. Not counting the Tides, only 3 adjoining property owners got mailed notices. And this is technically correct. I agree with Mr. Gill on this. But the facts are unusual and more complicated here because of the nature of these small lots in this neighborhood where all the lots are huge, and the fact where you saw in the diagram, our driveway goes all the way down the entire section of the county property and the Tides property. It cuts off a bunch of neighbors who are a stone's throw from this development. I mean, it's only the width of our driveway preventing them from being an adjoining property owner. In addition, the 6 lots are the only ones that are come into play here. The other 10 lots, if you're adjoining to one of those lots, you didn't get notice. Personally, we have only received 4 business days' notice, counting today. We were able to make contact this week with 2 other owners, Mr. Wick, who Forrest mentioned, and Gary Rahl, who lives in D.C., with whom we communicated with only this morning. They were both very, very concerned about the permit. Neither one of them had received their letter. We have spent the last few days talking to neighbors, yes, and we put out a sign. We're trying to get out the word and let people know, since only 3 people were notified. We are pro-business. We love the Tides Inn. We want them to succeed. We want their employees to have a safe, wonderful place to live. We just think there should be conditions placed on this permit. There should be a cap on the number of people. They said there's only 60, then that should be in the permit. We think that this exception should only run for the tides and tides employees. It should not run with the land because of some future use for boarding houses that might not be as desirable as what the tides have. You also have the problem of the fact that these people who are going to be here, who are ever changing and moving in and out, have all day 24-hour access to the county proposed park. And that means that they can walk anywhere in the park, day or night, whereas the rest of the county residents are restricted from dawn till dusk. And this is going to create a constant problem about who's doing there and doing what. I do want to just add, we think there are conditions that we can make this an acceptable proposal, and we want the Tides Inn to be successful, and we want all these people to have a place, convenient, safe place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Thornton, William Thornton.
My name is William Thornton, and I consider myself a stakeholder in this because I have the property directly across Taylor's Creek from the park location. I understand this three-lot game that's being played. I'm not trying to be prejudicial. But adequate notice would mean that you would notify everybody in proximity to this property so they can voice their concerns and have a meaningful dialogue. We're not trying to stop anything. We're trying to be informed as to what this includes. This notice is not even what is required for wetlands and docks and riprap. I mean, we don't understand why the same kind of restrictions of notice don't apply here. This is spot zoning, and it's going to, Mr. Farrell's letter, and I'll read you the clause, as amended, also requires a separate written notice to be given adjoining property owners that property owners immediately across the street or tidal waters from the subject property. They're saying it's only the 3 lots, so the park shields them from notifying me. I got no notice. Nobody on Taylor's Creek got a notice. We're all in District 5, and we feel like we should have been notified and have some ability to be informed as to the nature, breadth, and depth of this project. I'm a stakeholder, and so are all the people within earshot and visual shot of the park. If this proposal is so critical, why weren't there informational meetings scheduled with return receipts required on the letters? That's normal practice to notify people so that they can have input and explain the need for this present zoning and spot zoning exception for boarding house. I was curious, is there any other boarding house designation in either Weems or Lancaster County? If there is, I don't know of it. You may know. I'll ask that question. And there was a traffic study done on Weems Road, volume study. It's available from VDOT for the turn lanes and other things that might be required to make this property viable. The constituents and property owner input suggests a delay in this action so that we can be informed and have meetings where we can understand what the proposal entails and the architecture. One comment is we understand it and we're not architects. The way this is designed, it can never revert back to single family because it's common dining, common space on the ground floor, the bedrooms upstairs. You couldn't, if you decided this didn't work, you wanted to sell the property or you wanted to convert it to something else, it would almost be impossible. Finally, safety. Weems Road is 55 miles an hour, is recently upgraded, and it will be, you need adequate turn lanes to provide ingress and egress and have traffic counts conducted. I would ask everybody here who concurs with what I'm saying and what the wards have just said to please clap your hands. I would like to thank you.
Mr. Yarborough.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm one of the neighbors that lives a stone throw away from this property in question. The main water drainage from this property runs right down my property. And depending how they grade it and how they work it, they could put a tremendous flood of water on my property. And I have seen nothing in the plans to say how they're going to handle the drainage. So I agree. I think it should be delayed until more information is made to the public Because if they're gonna send a lot more water to me, I think they should upgrade the drainage ditches. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Mrs.
And a
Henderson?
comment to that,
We will allow
do
you,
you require?
Wait till the
Yes.
end, Marston.
yes, we're gonna
Okay.
allow you to comment at the end. All right.
Thank you.
Mrs. Claudette Henderson?
Good evening,
Good evening.
Chair Palin and the other board members. First, I would like to thank you for appointing me to the Public Access Water Group, so thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you. And my name is Claudette Henderson. I do live in District 5 on Gaskins Road in Weems, where I was raised, and it is a quarter of a mile from the subject property. So regarding the application for special exception, I do support the granting of the special exception to ensure decent and safe housing for employees of the Tides, to support quality job retention and growth of those employed by the Tides, and its relevance to the Taylor Creek County Park project, which aligns with the Lancaster 2035 initiative. Specifically, workforce housing is number 4 of 6 of the strategies, and the age-appropriate recreation and lifestyle is number 5 of the 6 strategies. And I do understand everybody's interest and concern about their property, but I would like to leave words of food for thought. Many of you are familiar with the parable in the Bible of the Good Samaritan. However, many are unaware of the preamble to the parable, which was Jesus having a conversation with an attorney, and the attorney asked, "And who is my neighbor?" Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Jeff Sapersky?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and the board. Appreciate you hearing me out tonight. I'm Jeff Sapersky. I'm District 5. I'm a Weems resident. I'm also a member of the Lancaster County 2035 Committee, and I also serve on the subcommittees for communication, housing, and workforce. I think most of you know the overall premise of that plan is that in the last decade, we've had a 10% decrease in our workforce population. And I can speak as a local business owner. In the past 3 years, we've had to purchase a 50,000 square foot facility in Norge, and we've outfitted 18,000 square feet for support for my organization because we could not get it here. We could not find the workforce here. I'm in support of this because it hits 2 of the pillars of the Lancaster 2035 plan. It hits workforce and it hits housing. Those are 2 of the 6. You heard some talk about recreation, which is one of the other ones. And I know it does not go without people noticing. The Tides Inn is so important as an economic headwaters for the economic development of this community. So I personally feel we're lucky to have the largest second employer who's willing to build their own housing to fund their operation. I don't know many other organizations that would do that. So for all the reasons listed, I am in support of this, subject to mechanics and everything. I understand people's concerns have voiced so far, but my overall vote is in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Attorney Hubbard?
Good evening, gentlemen. William Hubbard from District 3. I'm here to express my support for the application for the special exception. As this board knows, and clearly stated in the comprehensive plan right at the outset of the chapter with regard to quality housing, Lancaster County needs more affordable or workforce housing in the county. I mean, that says it all right there, and we have a project before us tonight for consideration, and I would urge the board to approve it. And I'd go on further to state that in the very next section, it goes on to state the Lancaster County, while rich in historic, natural, and cultural resources, faces problems of unemployment and underemployment. This can also help address that concern. We're looking at local contractors with local employees working to build a workforce housing project to support more local employees who are going to live here, work here, spend their money here at local businesses. So with all that being said, I'd urge the board to approve the request for a special exception. Thank you.
Sir. Ms. Linda Hamilton?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Linda Hamilton. I live in District 5. I live off of Beechwood Drive, which is right adjacent to Moccasin, where this project is proposed. So I'm very, very close. I mean, I can walk there in like a half a minute, so to speak. At the Beechwood community, we have a dock at the end of Moccasin, so it's right on that property, but it is our property. And so that dock will be available to the people in this housing. I don't know how that's going to be protected. Further, there's going to be a lot of environmental impact on everybody living on Weems Road, and I feel that everyone on Weems Road needs to be advised of what is happening, including the village of Weems. You're going to have environmental impacts with traffic, litter, noise. My son worked as a young man at the Tides Inn and routinely hanged out with the transient employees frequently, and there was a lot of drinking, a lot of noise, a lot of partying, and I called him last night because I just learned of this last night, and he said, "Oh my," he goes, "Mom, you're gonna, I'm right next door." He said it's going to be noisy, it's going to be loud, it's going to be on into the middle of the night. He said, and you can bet they'll be down at the dock. So I said, anyway, that's very disconcerting. The other thing is, I can understand there's something different between what's legally required and what's ethically desired. Many more people should have been informed on this. You have not been transparent about this. I will have my house paid off in 1 year. I have worked hard for this. This is my asset. This is the only asset I have. I want all of you to ask yourselves, do you want a residence next to your home with 60 transient people who are unrelated living in there? Do you ask yourself, as a social worker, which I am, put yourself in someone else's shoes and say, okay, I want this boarding house right next to my house. Please ask yourself that. If you can't say, yes, I want that, then you have to reflect and think about your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope I pronounced this last name correct. It's Kathy Haran? Haran.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I too live just a stone's throw away from this property in question. We've been here since 2016. We fell in love with the area. We fell in love with how quiet it was. We fell in love with the nature that surrounds us. And as Ms. Linda just said, with the type of people that will be living in these houses, that quietness, that nature is going to go away. And I agree with what Linda said. Do you want this next to your property or in your neighborhood? Most of our people in our neighborhood, the majority of them are retired. They're there for the good, quiet life. We don't want this. We don't need this. And we don't appreciate if you even consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jason Trollope.
Good evening. Good evening, Chairman, Board. My name is Jason Trollope. I'm the Managing Director of the Tides Inn, and I'm here to support Marston Smith's presentation. I also had a few comments to make, but I also wanted to start off by saying I appreciate everyone's comments this evening. I do hope that, there's a way we can get to the end of this comfortably. I wanted to kind of express more about what our position is at the Tides Inn. This is my third year at the Tides Inn, and as one of the largest employers, we're finding team members that are leaving this county, leaving the Tides Inn, and the primary reason is that there's no affordable accommodation. So what's happening is we're losing more and more staff because there's nowhere for them to live. We're finding staff, but further afield, an hour and a half's drive. As far as Williamsburg and Richmond are driving every single day, and with our unpredictable fuel prices, you can imagine how difficult that is. We can't attract new staff, and it's not just the Tides Inn. I mean, many of you have seen our local businesses, our local restaurants. They remain closed, sometimes for 2 or 3 nights a week now. Last night I went to a restaurant and they just closed the doors. They're only doing takeout. There's no service inside the restaurant. That's not just affecting restaurants, but the businesses in the area as well. Last year, the Tides Inn we were at a point where we needed to think about closing our rooms. We have 70 rooms, but we couldn't afford to service all those rooms and the restaurants. We started reducing hours in all of our restaurants. This applies to everyone. This year was the same. We're struggling to find people to keep the hotel open. We need to do more to attract and recruit and retain staff to remain competitive and frankly, stay open. Lastly, I know that the term boarding house conjures up some very scary images. The Tides Inn has been, and I'm sure you would have seen over the last few years, the level of investment there has been significant. The Tang family, all they want to do is provide high-quality lodgings, high-quality hotels and services, but that also applies to our staff. If we want to attract staff to come and work in this area, we need high-quality accommodation for senior-level managers. So I accept that it sounds like we're going to have a very transient staff. That's not true at all. It's for all of our staff. And all of our staff, all levels, have the same trouble. They can't find affordable accommodation. So I just want everyone to understand that the level that you're seeing in the investment in the Tides Inn right now is what we want for that housing for our staff. And we want the green lawns and the trees, and we want that quiet environment that so many people want. Just want to make mention of that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Mr. Keith Baylor.
Hi, my name is Keith Butler. I've been here all my life. I started work at Tides Inn in
Talk to us,
81,
sir. Talk to us.
1981, I'm sorry. I started work at Tides Inn since 1981. I started off sweeping the floors. I worked my way up from there to housekeeping maintenance, and now I'm the director of maintenance. So if you're worried about the people that's going to be living beside you, you're looking at one. Somebody that wants to get up in the morning, provide positive income for their families, work hard. I work sometimes from 7 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. There's going to be a lot of people that work double shifts there. They're not going to be the people that Linda Hampton's saying that they party all night. We have the staff living on property. Some of our rooms cost over $1,000 a night. So I wouldn't think that we would have a bunch of party people living on the property, making noise all through the night. They would have to abide by any other rules that you abide by yourself. And I can't imagine that anybody wouldn't want me to live next door to them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Mr. Carter, Jimmy Carter.
Good evening, Mr. Palin, members of the board. My name's Jimmy Carter. I'm in District 5. As the board's aware, I was requested to serve on the CBRAC committee, the 2035 committee. And on that committee, I'm chairing the housing committee. So we're looking at how we can build apartment, affordable housing, and workforce housing. So I felt compelled to come and speak tonight because in the work sessions that we've had with the board, Mr. Bellows and Mr. Lee have been serving on the CBRAC committee. We've had a lot of discussions about workforce housings and the problems. There are a lot of problems right now that are exasperating the problems in Lancaster County in terms of housing. The housing boom in itself has taken a lot of housing off of the market. A lot of housing that was rental market has been sold as single family. A lot of the housing's been converted over to the vacation rentals. And so it's just created a more tenuous problem in terms of employers like the Tides Inn being able to meet their needs. I echo that as Mr. Sapersky said, that the Tides Inn's a valued part of our working community. I think what the Tangs are doing here is amazing. Lancaster County wouldn't be what it is if the Tides Inn hadn't opened here in 1947. And I think what they're getting ready to do will play an important role in our economic growth. I fully understand the concerns voiced by some of the neighbors. I particularly impressed with Mrs. Ward's comments and appreciate her previous service to the Commonwealth. But I'd like to say that on behalf of the CBRAC committee that we would encourage you to approve this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right, that's all that I have on the list. Is there anyone else in the audience that's not on the list? Yes, sir.
I signed, but I didn't.
I've already recognized someone. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, Board. My name's Tony Ennis. I live on Taylor's Creek, within a stone's throw of the property that's the subject of this evening. I only heard about this a couple of days ago, and I came here this evening to find out more, learn more. About 2 months ago, I had my annual physical, and my hearing was 100%, which was delightful at my age. I only heard about 65% of this evening. And I'm not too sure how anybody, I mean, I didn't learn as what I really wanted to learn. I don't know how anybody could give an opinion on the merits of this, on the basis of this evening, and the information given. This is clearly a big issue, as you can see from the number of people attending. I think they deserve to have a proper hearing where everybody can hear. And it's somewhat disappointing that if the managing director of the Tides Inn was present, why didn't he give the presentation? Then we could have all heard it. I was called to the bar in the United Kingdom. I've been familiar with these proceedings, and I really think that we didn't learn enough this evening. I didn't. I'd be surprised if you did, unless your hearing's a lot better than mine, to really make a valid decision. So I would suggest that we have another hearing, another day, when we can all hear, and perhaps then opine. That being said, I like the Tides Inn. I'm supportive of it. I came here to learn. I don't feel as though I did that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wants to speak? Anyone else? Anybody online?
I'll address a couple of the concerns quickly.
Okay. Hold on, sir. Hold on just a minute, sir. I'll acknowledge you. Anybody else online who wants to speak?
It's a lady back here.
Let me handle online. Michael, who? So, ma'am, y'all getting out of hand now. Y'all stay seated. I'm gonna get to you, ma'am. Huh? I already got somebody online. Y'all, look, let me take time and say this. We like to have order. Y'all have been doing fine. We have order. So please don't get out of order. I am going to acknowledge everyone that wants to speak. All right? I have somebody online right now.
Oh, okay, so you
Thank
want me to
you.
go sit back down?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a problem.
With hearing?
Y'all need a new hearing system.
Okay.
And y'all need it desperately.
Okay.
So everybody.
Who's online?
This
All
is
right,
Marston Smith. I was just going to address a couple of the comments
That's Marston.
That's
Marston, wait till the end, Marston.
Marston, I will call you by name, okay?
I keep jumping the gun, I apologize.
Yes. All right.
It should be Micah Keller. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay, speak, sir. We can hear you.
Yeah, so my name is Micah Keller. I'm from District 5 as well. I live down Johns Neck, which is right off of Weems Road. And I've got three, points I really want to make on this subject. The first one is this is a special use permit that they're requesting. So it was not the intended use of this property. The definition for special use is a use considered to have a potentially greater impact upon neighboring properties or the public than those uses permitted. Again, that's having a greater impact upon neighboring properties than those uses permitted. That's kind of point number one. Second point is I have a little bit of experience in zoning and density and construction. For R1, we're not talking about building a duplex. We're talking about building a unit here that houses 10 people on each lot. That would really require a rezoning to something above and beyond an R1. I mean, you're reaching the point of a PUD almost with that amount of density per acre. The third thing I wanted to point out is the people that have supported this brought up the point of affordable housing is needed. I 1000% agree that we do need more affordable housing. The other thing that they brought up is that they want to bring good housing to their employees that make their employees want to be here. I personally would rather live in a duplex or a single family home than in a dormitory style house with 4 other people that I am not family with. With that being said, the Tides Inn just in 2 parcels, parcels number 27B42 and parcel 27B42A, part of the golf course, encompasses over 110 acres. That is 110 acres that is not being used currently, that has road frontage, that is closer to water and sewer access already, that could build duplexes or single-family homes that are much more desirable to their employees, as well as much more desirable to the community and conforming with the building structures in the community already. So with that being said, I think those are 3 important parts to note. I do encourage additional housing and affordable housing in the community, but I think there is a better place to put it at a better density that does mix with the community surrounding. That would be all.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else online before I come back to the audience in here? Anyone else online? Okay, good. All right, now, where's the lady that came up? Over there. All right, come on, ma'am. You up.
Barely. If y'all need someone to run a fundraiser for you for equipment, because this has been crazy. I don't see how y'all stand it. I'd love to help you out.
Now,
Anyway,
state your name. For
the other
record.
thing
State your name for the record.
Pardon? For the record?
State your name.
Oh, Sue Lane Conrad.
Okay.
The other thing I would like to ask about is where does the sewage from this area run into? Does it run into the main sewage line that runs in? We had no sewage in the village of Weems. I don't know what they have there, but I will say if they want to run it through the little septic tank that is off of the golf course, that's horrible. I don't know how it's going to handle sewage because we bought a house there and actually sold it 2 months later. I mean, it was awful. Anyway, thank you. And if you need somebody to help with this, I'm with you. And I think a lot of other people are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Anyone else from the audience? Okay.
Am I allowed now?
Yes, you're allowed now. You're in order. Come forward.
Okay,
This is the first time I've been involved in anything like this. Bear with me.
State your name, please.
Marilyn Grinnan. I
Thank you.
live on Beechwood Drive, which is the road right beside this area. My house is literally as far as this room is long from this area. My husband died last summer, and I'm alone. I'm just thinking, one of the things I'd like to know is, how old are these people that's going to be living there? I'm thinking they're not going to be over 30. They're going to be young people who get out of work, go home and drink and play loud music. And how about if we need to call, I'm sure they can't do that after certain hours, but the only thing that's going to stop that is if you call the police and then the police come. Do we have coverage for that type of thing? And when we built our home, we got sewage for 4 bedrooms, and they said that was very unusual in that area. And we have 4 or 5 homes on our whole road. How are they doing sewage, checking it out? Because you're going to have how many, 12 houses in a small area? I'm just wondering how the sewage is going to work for that. And I'm not in favor of this at all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
May I ask them for a question on the sewage, because it came up a couple times?
We will handle that. All right. Anyone else? Okay.
You gonna give them?
Mr. Butler, how old are you?
Sir, how old am I?
Yes.
I am 59 years old.
Oh, you over 30. Okay.
Yes, I'm over 30.
All right. All right. Public hearing is now closed. What's his name?
Marston, you gonna?
Mr. Marston, now you can present your case.
All right, thank you. And thanks to everybody commenting, Molly and Forrest, Claudette and Jeff, and William, Jason, Keith, Jimmy, thank you all. Micah, Linda, Tony, everyone else. I've got a couple of comments that, just to clear the record, there was a couple of the public comments given. So VDOT, as far as the traffic study, we have obtained all necessary approvals with VDOT. So we've worked through all of that with them. There was a comment from a gentleman regarding stormwater runoff. We are obligated by the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality to treat every drop of water that is on our site. So anything that comes onto our site is going to, and you saw on one of the slides, will go down to a stormwater basin that's at the north end of the site with the parks. And, we're coordinating this with DEQ. DEQ makes sure that we don't have runoff to other properties. So that's taken care of. One distinction I wanted to make just from, it was either Forrest or Molly, we need the non-related parties distinction. That's why we're seeking the special exception of a boarding house. And Mike, I'll mention it's not a special use we're going after. It's a special exception within the R1, and this use is within the R1 zone. So it does qualify within the R1.
Can I ask a question?
A couple of people commented on the sewer. We operate a wastewater treatment plant sewer that's about 50,000 gallons. So we have adequate capacity to hook all of these up to sewer. It's not septic. We're hooking up to our own sewer plant. Two other things that I'll say. The public access for this is for the entire, it's for everybody in Lancaster County. It's not just to be shared or just to be had from our employees. It will be accessible.
Speak directly into your mic, sir.
Okay. It will be accessible to everyone. A couple of other things. Private property. We're not going to be on somebody's private dock. And finally, I heard, and I thought Keith put it very well. Thanks, Keith, as always. Putting yourself in the shoes of others. Well, I'd ask some of the people that have spoken today to put yourselves in the shoes of our workforce, of our employees that have very much asked for this type of housing, very much need it. And, you know, we've been good stewards, we'll continue to be good stewards, but it is a two-way street, and this is something that's necessary for Lancaster and necessary for our employees to do. So, with that, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, gentlemen, you all had any comments, questions?
I have a couple of questions. Is it Mr. Marston?
Marston Smith.
Marston Smith. That's a good last name. One question brought up tonight, Mr. Smith, was why boarding houses versus duplex or even apartments that your employees could afford to live in?
Duplex bill does not carry the distinction of non-related parties in the zoning code. The zoning code doesn't speak directly to how many non-related parties can fit in a duplex. So we just figured that the boarding house was a broader term to allow for these non-related parties.
An apartment use would require rezoning to R4.
Gotcha.
That's correct.
My second question is, you mentioned or maybe you didn't mention a buffer, but is there going to be some type of buffer protection from the road, or is this going to be wide open view?
From the road, we have, the county owns the first two parcels, which extend about 100 or so feet up the road. We were just going to leave it as green space since it's county owned. But our first houses will start over 100 feet from Weems Road.
Okay.
And the buffer on our north, or on our west and east sides of our property will be greater than 50 feet, which more than satisfies the setback required of 25 feet.
My other question is, my other question deals with the other 10 lots. You would have to come back to the board to receive any other exemption on those. Do you have any intention for those other 10 lots in the foreseeable future?
That's the key distinction. In the foreseeable future, we do not. So we do not foresee coming back to the board in the coming years for those lots.
So a question brought up by my wife this afternoon is what, because you're a seasonal business, what will the number of residents look like from April to September versus October to March? Or are you considering staying open year-round?
In the future, we will be staying open year-round. So I'll say that. But seasonally in the coming years, I would say that the residency through the 100 days of August is probably going to be our peak. And then it'll start trailing off slightly in October, and then gear back up in around March or April.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Palin,
Yes.
this is my district.
Yes.
And so my greatest opposition comes from within my own household, and that's my wife. So if anyone has lived here longer than 55 years, in Weems, you've lived there longer than I have. I was born and raised in Taylor's Creek. My grandfather had a railway at the end of Rose's Lane, and that's where I grew up. I worked on the water with him. I attended Wesley Presbyterian Church, and I'm still there. And if you ever want to hear me preach, you can come there on Sundays, and you will hear me talk about God. I went to college, and I moved back, and my wife and I bought a house in the village of Weems. We thought we were going to own it for a few years and flip it and move on, but we fell in love with Weems, and we're still there. The kids grew up there, and I drive by this place 5 or 6 times a day, and I'll continue to drive by it until I die. So if I vote in favor of this, you have to understand that I am there I'm not voting and leaving. I see it. I know the people. I would never do anything to hurt my district or to affect Weems. I hear your concerns. I've received 12 phone calls today and 8 phone calls yesterday, all in opposition. Not one of those phone calls said, I am so happy that the Tides Inn decided to stay, because 2 years ago they were leaving us, and that would have been a disaster. As long as I can remember, the Tides Inn has been the gem of not just Lancaster County, but the gem of the Northern Neck, and I don't want them to go anywhere. So I will support this, but I will also make sure that it doesn't get out of hand and that we don't have kids partying and drinking Corona and doing all the things that my kids do when they come home from college. I'm not going to let those things happen.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
first of all, I think, Mr. Gill, we talked about this yesterday. This is capped at 60, right?
It's what is presented as 60. If you all wish to place a condition on it at 60, you can do that as well.
I think, capping it at 60 would be the right thing to do. The other thing I want to say, I'm really disturbed about some people I know in here that will get up and talk about who's living beside them. I mean, we're in the 21st century, and we still can't live beside a person that look like me. I mean, I am deeply, look, you had your turn, I'm talking now. Because I'm on the receiving end of this. And all I can hear is transit people coming in and out, people partying all night. And I just can't not believe that we still, in this day and age, have this kind of attitude. And I'm highly disturbed with it. Now, I'm in favor of this because I've been on this workforce housing and we've been looking at it, and I know the conditions of when somebody got to come out and try to rent. I know they can't find anywhere where to stay. If the housing was affordable, maybe you can go down and pay $800,000 for a house. Maybe that's on the market, but I heard that they was getting scares on the market too in Lancaster. So you gotta start thinking about somebody other than yourselves. Somebody other than that little sphere that you operate in. There's a whole lot of other people out here, and they're struggling. And you gotta start thinking about that. And I'm in favor of this.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'll be brief. I just think that the Tides Inn is one of our important economic drivers in this community. It's been a great partner throughout the years. I feel that people living here will be representatives of the Tides Inn, and such they will conduct themselves as proper as the Tides Inn is. So I will support this as well.
Mr. Chairman, I came in here tonight to listen to both sides of this. I wanted to come up with my thoughts. I hear the concerns. I do agree with what Mr. Lee says. I think a lot of it is unproven fear. I would hope that if we do approve this, that you all would be active, and I would hope the Tides would be active in that there could be dialogue between the neighbors and them, that things can be worked out. I've been here all my life. I've lived here all my life. If there's a problem with my neighbor, we work it out. And that's, I think, is what needs to happen here. I agree. I think we need the Tides in our area for the economic side of it. And housing is a big issue for all employers in the area, but it is for them. So I would support this also.
Mr. Smith, you want to make a motion?
Well,
And you want to include the cap?
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell, one speaker brought up the possibility of making a condition that this stay with the Tides only. Usually a special exception runs with the land. Can they make that condition?
Legally, that's questionable.
Okay.
Legally, that's questionable, unless the board makes a specific finding that only the Tides Inn can operate these types of facilities, and therefore it would need to be operated by them. And I don't think under this circumstance that the Tides Inn can only operate these type of facilities. Now, I do think this is a special use permit, and call it a special use permit, conditional use permit. The board can impose conditions on it. What I've heard is a capping at 60.
That's that's a condition I would like to have on.
I would suggest to the board that there's been an application filed. It has a site plan. It has other language in it, and that in addition to whatever conditions the board also wants to impose, that at least the application be the conditions on the special use permit, so that they just don't build any kind of boarding house that they want. They have to stick to the plans that are submitted, or they have to come back to you. So that this is what they are asking for, this is what they want, and I think this board ought to put that as that application as a condition on them, that they build in accordance with the application. That's a condition, and then perhaps a 60, and then whatever other conditions the board might want to impose.
My first motion will be that we do upgrade our hearing or speaker system, because we need some help with that. But that's not a motion. I'd like to make a motion for us to approve the application for the special exemption by the New Tides LLC to permit boarding houses for the use of its employees pursuant to Lancaster County Zoning Ordinance Article 5, Residential General District R1. And that we will cap it at 60.
And that it will be the conditions as set forth, it will be built in accordance with the application that's been submitted.
Okay, and you just said it.
All right. You've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous vote. Okay, motion carried. Okay. Consensus docket.
Move for approval.
You've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Consensus docket approved. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the invoices for the month of August in the total amount of $1,157,953.49. Total payroll, $358,852.44. Come on, finances is the most important and exciting thing of the evening. For a total amount of $1,516,805.93, of which $579,669.50 were capital improvements, and ARPA funds of $15,057.74.
You've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous vote. Motion carried. Okay, approval of contract with real property. Mr. Cornwell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we had previously discussed, as you are aware, there is a closed landfill that was operated by Lancaster, Northumberland, and Richmond counties. An adjacent property owner has offered to sell a portion of the property adjoining that adjacent landfill to the closed landfill, to the three counties. I had brought this to the board's attention in a previous meeting. The board had indicated that it was interested in acquiring that jointly with Northumberland and Richmond, and that each county would split in 1/3 the acquisition cost plus the cost and expenses. You have a draft contract in front of you for that purchase. I think there are 3 lawyers involved, so that contract's being worked on as we speak. But I would like to get if it's the board's desire to go forward on that transaction, I'd like to get a resolution authorizing execution of a contract subject to county attorney and county administrator's approval, and purchase of the property is subject again to approval of the documents by the county attorney and the county administrator.
Okay.
I make a motion that the county attorney move forward with this acquisition.
Okay, and direct the county administrator?
Yeah.
And attorney? Okay. All right, you've heard the motion?
I meant county attorney, that's what it is.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous vote. All right, it's approved. All right.
What's the purchase price, Don? My computer's not loading. Just so the public knows, it's 40,000, I think.
Yeah, it was $40,230.
Yeah.
Split three ways.
So it's
And
three
our
ways.
section, our amount is $13,410.
Yeah,
Plus-
plus a third of
closing
closing costs.
Yes. All right.
Mr. Cornwell's gonna cut us a deal on those costs.
All right. The next one is award of contract. Mr. Gill?
Mr. Chairman, on May 23rd of this year, we sent out a request for proposals for qualified engineering firms to provide professional engineering and related services for potential county projects on an as-needed basis. The successful offerer would wind up with a contract for a period of 2 years with 3 one-year extensions as an option. The county received 3 responses to that RFP, and we interviewed 2 firms on August the 11th. The interview panel consisted of District 1 Supervisor Craig Geezy, District 4 Supervisor Bill Lee, and myself. The interview committee has unanimously decided that Bay Design Group was the firm that was the most responsive to the RFP, and we recommend that they be awarded this contract.
Okay, any comments, questions? Motion?
So moved.
All right. All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All right, ayes have it, unanimous vote. Okay, next one is award of contract for architectural service. Mr. Gill?
Mr. Chairman, same date, May 23rd, the county issued an RFP for architectural firms to provide professional architectural and related services for county projects. Same contract, initial contract of 2 years with 3 one-year extensions as an option. We received 4 responses to that RFP. We interviewed 3 firms on August the 9th and 11th, same interview panel. And again, the interview panel unanimously decided that Guernsey Tingle was the firm that was the most responsive to the RFP and recommend that they be awarded this contract.
Okay, any questions, comments? All right, I move that we award a 2-year contract for architectural service to Guernsey Tingle. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All right, ayes have it, unanimous vote. All right, motion passed. All right, authorized to move forward with Virginia Outdoors Foundation. All right, Pup Don Gill.
Mr. Chairman, you all know we have multiple public access projects pending. We're moving on those. One of the sources of multiple grants will be the Virginia Outdoors Foundation. This is not just a one-time thing. This could be a source of multiple grants for multiple public access sites. However, the Virginia Outdoors Foundation requires a perpetual deed of open space easement for all of their grants. We recently submitted on Monday a grant application with the VOF, and if for some reason the board didn't want to pursue this, we can withdraw that application. But staff doesn't see a problem with this because the board has purchased these properties with the intent of having them be perpetual open space and public use space for all county residents. I'd like to have authorization from the board to continue with Virginia Outdoors Foundation public access grants that require perpetual deeded open space easements, and if the grants are awarded, to direct staff to have the necessary deeds of easement prepared for future Board of Supervisor consideration and action.
All right, any questions, comments?
Mr. Gill, does, on that open space, does that like preclude the county from developing those sites in any way, or?
No,
It just means it has to be access to the public.
It can be accessed by the public. The deed of easement can expressly depict what will be built on the site. And Jim, you may can chime in.
You can modify that. It's basically, they just want to make sure that you're not going to get a grant, build something and flip it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can negotiate with them. Let's say that you get a grant and you do this deed of easement and you decide you want to put a bait shop down there or whatever. That's usually not a problem with them as long as it's going to continue to be used for the purposes of outdoor recreation.
Okay.
I don't think they want you to build a, boarding house there. They're going to be okay.
But like if facilities support the public access or whatever would be fine.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, that's been my experience.
Yes.
Okay.
When you think of open space, you just think of having
Yeah.
a wide open field and nothing being able to be built on it.
We, the initial, we engaged a grant writer to help with this process. The Public Access Committee found 3, and we settled on 1. And we originally were submitting a pre-application for a smaller grant, $25,000 grant, for 2 sites. And when she submitted that pre-application, VOF directed us toward this Preservation Trust Fund, which is it averages $150,000. So they have directed us toward that. So, nothing is ever guaranteed, but it seems like by them directing us this way that we stand a pretty good shot.
I had experience in this in Dinwiddie, and we got one of these, and then we went down and we paved the road parking lot, and we constructed buildings for, basically you have to run it past them to get approval, but that's normally given as long as it's for the public use.
And that's the average grant
Yes.
award, so that means that they give some that are considerably higher if that's the average.
Well, in the last several grant rounds, there have been no awards above $150,000. But the way we are approaching it is an initial grant application at $150,000, and we can come back. They have rounds every 6 months, I believe. Isn't that correct, Bruce? And we can come back for a subsequent grant for the same location and different locations as well. As I said, multiple grant opportunities on multiple sites.
I think they also will provide grant money to purchase property.
They will, yes.
Okay. All right.
Let's get the ones built we got.
Well, I move that we authorize county staff to move forward with the Virginia Outdoor Foundation public access grants, and also that staff is to have the necessary deeds and easements prepared for future Board of Supervisors consideration and action. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous vote, motion passed. Okay. Board reports. Any board reports?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just respond to the letter to the editor this week about do the Board of Supervisors actually read books? And I will respond that I just finished reading Colonel Roosevelt.
Wow.
I don't read the paper, so what? That was in there?
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry. I don't read letters to the editor. I do read the paper. so-
That might show up in the paper this week.
Yes, sir.
I'm too busy reading books.
I was going to talk about public access, but since Bruce is still here, I'm gonna
Okay.
let him bring y'all up to
All
date.
right, come on up, sir. Thank you for all that you do. Yes.
Well, we think we're rolling pretty fast thanks to the help of Don and staff. We've got folks out there probably working outside their job description, mowing grass and making some places, maybe it's on their own time. It's over lunch hour. But I want to just again reiterate the fact that we've got a really energetic group, but we couldn't get anything done without you all's support and the staff that responds quickly. This thing on the grant, we knocked out in 3 days, including over the weekend, to make this deadline on Monday. And Don and I looked at the deed restriction. It's not onerous. It just says you're going to keep it. And we can do whatever we want to with these properties. And we'll be back in 6 months for the next round. And there's lots of other opportunities to seek grants to help the county, including acquisition and easement acquisition. So you wouldn't have to own something fee title. We've already had several property owners come to us saying, we want to keep this. More like some of the farmland preservation easements. We want to keep this in our family, but we want to protect it in perpetuity. And that's also an opportunity. We don't have to, county doesn't have to own these properties, but they want to keep it as working waterfronts, as multiple uses. So we need to be a little creative about, we don't have to buy all this stuff. We can do these things all different ways. So I just want to thank everybody. I think we're rocking and rolling now, thanks to Bill Lee saying he wanted to quit talking about stuff and do something. and that you guys have demonstrated we're doing something and got a great work group to work with, and people know people, and I'll tell you, people are hungry for these opportunities where families and guests can enjoy these properties.
You want to talk about your sign there?
Oh, I can. I got a call yesterday from Mr. Lee saying, "You ever going to get those signs done?" Well, there's the prototype of the one with the county seal, and some of the things that are planned at the Carter Cove, which Don indicated is kind of our priority since it's bare land. And I've got the mock-ups there in front of you for the other properties we got priority on. We're probably going to have to put on there "coming soon" or "coming" banner across there, but this property could have soft opening with some picnic tables. There's already a dock there, and we can start doing some things without having all these amenities present. So,
Speaking to the signs, I know we talked about getting an additional sign down at Windmill Point, placement for people turning into the current ramp.
yep, I got that in the truck too. With the same theme logo, with the arrow pointing left, so they quit missing the new road. I got that
Let's
one.
get that thing up.
Yeah. You're gonna dig the hole for me, right?
I will. Let's do it this
Okay.
weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Todd.
Mayor, just to point this out, the Virginia Outdoors Foundation, we have a pending grant for $135,000 for the Trotway Trail.
People in Brooklyn.
Exactly. Jimmy Carter, was just going to point out, the Virginia Outdoors Foundation, we've been awarded a grant for $135,000 for the Triway Trail that we're in the midst of completing. We're getting ready to send the final documents to Mr. Cornwell for his review. And what you just passed will help Don sign off on that, because you have to make, on the school track, part of the trail ran across the school track. And so you all, Don, I think under the language you just provided, will be allowed to go ahead and make warranties to the Virginia Outdoors Foundation that will be put into the easement. So I just wanted to point out, and I also like to point out that Dr. Sissy Crowther is the chair of the Virginia Outdoors Foundation this year, so we do have a close ally.
Thank you. Any other board reports? I like those board reports. All right, county administrator report.
Mr. Chairman, I know we got a closed meeting coming up, but I do want to hit one topic right away, and our EMS chief, Matt Smith, reminded me of it. You will remember a few years ago when the county purchased an ambulance for the Upper Lancaster Volunteer Rescue Squad, that Matt sought out a grant and was successful in getting that grant, which basically paid for half of that, which was around $150,000. I'm pleased to tell you that Matt has sought out the Rescue Squad Assistance Fund grant for the most recent ambulance that you have in the current capital improvement budget, and again, he has been successful with that. So Matt does an amazing job with grants, and he's online now, I believe, and I think he wants to add a little bit to what I'm telling you. So Glenn, if you could bring Matt up. Matt, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, yeah, so that was the first thing I just wanted to hit on tonight. And that total was $132,300 for that grant. So it's the 50-50 grant, same as we got before.
Okay,
Thank you, Matt.
good, yes, thank you, sir.
Appreciate
Good
it.
work.
The second thing I just wanted to bring up is, in the past, before we've gotten the American Heart Association Mission Lifeline Award, and this year we were successful getting the award again, except we hit the gold tier level, which we have never done before in the past, and it's really hard for a rural EMS agency. And so I just wanted to mention that we achieved the gold level this year. And I'm trying to get something written up for the paper as well.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Yeah. All right.
That all you got, Matt?
That's it, unless anybody has any questions.
All right, any questions?
I like the way you handled that drone.
Great job. Great for the grant, too.
Yeah.
All right, any questions, comments, gents? All right, that's it, thank you, sir. All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Gill?
That's all for right now.
All right. Okay, let's get ready for closed session.
I move that the Board of Supervisors enter into a closed meeting for, one, acquisition, disposition of real property per Section 2.23711A3 of the Code of Virginia as amended. Number 2, legal matters per section 2.2, 3711A8 of the Code of Virginia as amended. And 3, personnel per section 2.2, 3711A1 of the Code of Virginia as amended.
Okay. You've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're now in closed session. All right. I move that the Lancaster County Board of Supervisors adopt the following certification resolution. Whereas the Lancaster County Board of Supervisors convened in a closed meeting on August 25th, 2022, pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote on the motion to close the meeting to discuss personnel, legal matters, and acquisition, disposition of real property in accordance with section paragraph 2.2-3711.A.1, 2.2-3711.A.8, and 2.2-3711.A.3 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas section paragraph 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Board of Supervisors that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Lancaster County Board of Supervisors hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, number one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act were heard, discussed, or considered in a closed meeting to which this certification applies. And two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard,